The council chamber was in chaos. Voices rose and fell in a dozen different languages, translators struggling to keep pace with the panic that filled the air. High Arbiter Quoll struck the resonance stone 3 times, but nobody paid attention. They were all too busy shouting at each other, pointing clawed fingers and tentacles across the circular room. Counselor Vextar stood at his podium, his scaled face tight with frustration. He had called this emergency session, and now he was losing control of it. The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed a map of the galaxy. Red markers bloomed across the outer rim like a spreading infection. Each marker represented a system that had gone dark. Each one meant billions of lives lost to the Devourers. The mechanical swarm had appeared 6 months ago. At first, the Council thought it was just another minor threat from deep space. They had seen such things before. But this was different. The Devourers did not negotiate. They did not communicate. They simply consumed everything in their path and moved on to the next system. Metal, organic matter, even the planets themselves, were broken down into raw materials and absorbed into the swarm. 3 Council fleets had been sent to stop them. 3 fleets had been destroyed. The wreckage now drifted through space, adding to the mass of the swarm. Every ship lost made the enemy stronger. Quoll struck the resonance stone again, harder this time. The sound cut through the noise like a blade. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the High Arbiter. Compound eyes and single eyes, and eyes that saw in spectrums beyond human comprehension. "We need solutions, not arguments," Quoll said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the strain beneath it. "Our combined forces cannot stop this threat. We need new strategies, new technology, new allies." "There are no new allies," Vextar said bitterly. "We are the Galactic Council. Every advanced species in this galaxy is already here." "Not every species," a small voice said from the back of the chamber. The room turned. An old man stood in the visitors' gallery, his face lined with age. He wore simple gray clothing that marked him as a frontier colonist. Most of the council members did not recognize him, but Vextar did. His scales rippled with something that might have been shame. "Jihun," Vextar said quietly. "You should not be here." "Neither should any of you," Jihun replied. He walked slowly down the stairs, leaning heavily on a cane. His hair was white, his back bent with years, but his eyes were clear and hard. "But here we are." Quoll tilted his head, confused. "Who is this human? I thought your species had abandoned Council space decades ago." "They did," Jihun said. "I stayed behind. Someone needed to remember. Menor, someone needed to remember." He reached the floor of the chamber and stopped. For a moment, he just looked around at all the empty spaces. There were seats for 50 species in this room. Only 32 were occupied. Jihun's eyes lingered on one chair in particular. It was in the second ring, positioned between the avian delegation and the silicon-based collective. The nameplate was still there, written in Earth's common script. "Humanity, 50 years ago," Jihun said slowly. Ambassador Minho stood in this chamber. He presented data from deep space probes, evidence of a mechanical threat moving through the dark between galaxies. He showed projections, calculations. He explained that this threat would reach Council space within 50 years. He asked for permission to build defensive networks. He offered to share military technology. He proposed joint research initiatives. The chamber was silent. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. "The council voted," Jihun continued, 43-7 against human proposals. The stated reason was that humanity was becoming too militaristic, too aggressive. The real reason was fear. "You were afraid of what humans might become if we were allowed to build freely." Vextar looked away. "We thought we were preventing a future conflict." "You were," Jihun said. "Just not the one you expected." He turned to address the full chamber. "After that vote, Additional restrictions were placed on human territory. Our colonies were limited to 20 systems. Our fleet size was capped. Our research facilities were monitored. And when humans protested, when Ambassador Minho tried to explain that we needed more resources to defend ourselves, do you remember what you told him? Nobody answered. You told him that the Council would provide protection, that humanity did not need its own defenses, that we should trust in the collective security of the Alliance. Ji-hoon laughed, but there was no humor in it. Ambassador Minho was a patient man. He spent another 5 years trying to make you understand. He showed you more data. He demonstrated new technologies. He explained the mathematics of the threat. And every time, you voted him down. Every time, you told him that humanity needed to accept its place in the galactic community. The old man walked to the human chair and ran his hand across the back of it. I was there for the final session. I was Minho's aide. I watched as he presented one last proposal. It was simpler than the others. He asked only for permission to send human ships beyond Council borders, to establish warning outposts, to prepare evacuation routes for the outer colonies. The vote was 45-5 against. I remember every face that voted no. I remember every excuse that was given. And I remember what Minho did next. Ji-hoon turned back to face them all. He stood up. He looked around this chamber, at all of you, and he said 3 words, "We understand now." Then he walked out. That was the last time a human representative addressed this council. "We thought your species would reconsider," Quoll said quietly. "We expected negotiations. We expected protest. We expected something." "You got something," Ji-hoon replied. "You got silence." Within 5 years, every human colony was empty. Every human ship was gone. Every human station was abandoned. We left behind the buildings. We left behind the automated systems. We left behind everything except ourselves and our knowledge. And we left so quietly that you did not even notice. Until it was over. Vextar finally spoke. "Where did they go?" One, away, Ji-hoon said simply. Far away, to a place where they would not be restricted, where they would not be feared, where they could build whatever defenses they needed, without asking permission from people who did not trust them. "Can you contact them?" Quoll asked. "Can you ask them to return? We need them. The Devourers are—" "I know what the Devourers are doing," Ji-hoon interrupted. "I watched the same reports you did. I saw the projections. 50 years ago, I helped compile that data. And now, I am watching all of you panic, because the threat we warned you about has finally arrived, and you do not know how to stop it." He turned and began walking back toward the exit. His cane tapped against the floor with each slow step. At the doorway, he paused and looked back. "You asked if I can contact them. The answer is no. Humanity severed all connections when they left. They took their technology. They took their knowledge. They took their hope for the future. And they took it all somewhere else. Somewhere you cannot follow. You are on your own now, just as you always wanted." Understayed. The door closed behind him. The council chamber remained silent for a long time. Then someone began to weep, and the sound spread through the room like the infection on the map. Red markers, blooming one by one. Counselor Tanis had never seen Earth. She was too young. By the time she hatched and grew her flight feathers, humanity had already been gone for 30 years. But she had studied the records. She had read every file, watched every archived session, and listened to every speech that Ambassador Minho had given. And the more she learned, the more ashamed she felt. Her people, the Kravali, had not been part of the council when humanity left. They had joined 15 years ago, After their homeworld was granted membership, Tanis represented a new generation. One that had not voted to restrict humanity. One that had not feared them. But she carried the guilt anyway, because she was part of the system that had driven them away. Now she stood on the bridge of a small scout ship, staring at the planet below. It was a human colony world, once called New Hanoi. The cities were still there. She could see them on the scanners, intact and functioning. Lights glowed in the windows. Power flowed through the streets. Automated systems maintained everything perfectly. But there were no people. Automated systems. There had not been people here for 50 years. It is the same as the others, her pilot said. He was a Vryn, a species known for their navigation skills. Everything works. Nothing lives. Tanis nodded slowly. This was the 7th human world they had visited. Everyone was the same. Empty, but not abandoned. The difference was important. Abandoned places fell into ruin. These places were carefully maintained, as if the inhabitants had just stepped out for a moment and would return any day. "Take us down," she said. "I want to see the surface." They landed near what the records called a civic center. Tanis stepped out of the ship and felt artificial gravity pull at her wings. The air was breathable, temperature controlled. Gardens grew in neat rows, tended by small robots that buzzed between the plants. A fountain ran in the central plaza, water cycling endlessly through its system. She walked through the empty streets and felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. This was not the aftermath of war or plague or disaster. This was deliberate. This was a choice. Humanity had looked at these cities they had built, these homes they had made, and decided to leave them all behind. In the civic center, she found a library. The doors opened automatically as she approached. Inside, shelves were filled with books and data crystals. Information was preserved and cataloged, but the reading areas were empty. The chairs were pushed in neatly. Everything was ready for people who would never come. Tanis downloaded what data she could and returned to her ship. They had been searching for 3 months now, jumping from system to system, following the old human trade routes. They had found 23 worlds. All empty, all maintained, all silent. "Where are we going next?" the pilot asked. "There is one more place," Tanis said. An orbital station near the human homeworld. It was their first deep space construction. According to records, they left an AI there to maintain the facility. The pilot's mandibles clicked nervously. Artificial intelligence? The Council banned human AI 60 years ago, Tanis interrupted. Another restriction. Another rule designed to limit them. But this AI was older than that ban. It might still be active. They jumped to the Sol system 3 days later. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, clouds swirling across its surface. Tanis had seen pictures, but they had not prepared her for the reality. The planet was beautiful. It was also empty. Scanners showed maintained cities, functioning systems, and 0 life signs above bacterial level. The orbital station was easier to find. It was a massive ring structure in high orbit, old enough that it predated most Council technology. As they approached, lights flickered on across its surface. Docking bay doors opened automatically. "Someone knows we are here," the pilot said. They docked carefully. The station's gravity was lower than standard, comfortable for humans but awkward for Tanis. She walked through corridors that had not held living people in half a century. The walls were clean. The lights worked. Everything hummed with quiet efficiency. In the central control room, they found her. Not a her, exactly. But the AI had chosen a female voice and a holographic avatar. She appeared as a young human woman with short dark hair and calm eyes. The name displayed on the console was Sora. "Welcome," Sora said. Her voice was pleasant, curious. "You are the first visitors in 50 years. I was beginning to think nobody would ever come." Tanis stepped forward. You are still active. After all this time, my function is to maintain this station and preserve records, Sora replied. I do not require company to fulfill my function, but I admit, it is pleasant to have someone to talk to again. Where did they go? Tanis asked. The question came out more desperate than she intended. The humans. Your creators. Where are they? Sora tilted her head. The gesture very human despite her digital nature. That information was not left in my database. But I have other records. Would you like to see them? Nuck. She did not wait for an answer. The room dimmed, and holographic displays filled the air. Tanis saw humans working, building, designing. She saw massive construction projects in deep space. She saw ships unlike any she had ever encountered, sleek and powerful. She saw mathematics and physics that pushed beyond council understanding. For 200 years, Sora explained, humanity worked on a single project. They called it the Exodus Initiative. It began long before they joined the council. It was always meant as a backup plan, in case Earth became uninhabitable. But after joining the council, the project changed purpose. The displays shifted. Now Tanis saw council sessions. She saw votes. She saw human proposals denied again and again. She saw the frustration on Ambassador Minho's face as he tried to make the council understand. Humanity realized something, Sora continued. They realized that the council would never see them as equals. They would always be the dangerous newcomers, the ones who needed to be controlled. So they made a choice. They would leave. But where? Tanis asked. The galaxy is mapped. There is nowhere to hide. Who said anything about hiding? Sora's smile was sad. They did not stay in this galaxy. At all. The hologram changed one final time. Tanis saw something impossible. A gateway, massive beyond comprehension. Hanging in deep space beyond the galactic rim, it pulsed with energy that her sensors could not properly measure. Void gates, Sora said. Technology to punch holes between galaxies. It took humanity 2 centuries to develop them. It took another 50 years to build them. And when they were ready, when the council finally pushed too far with their restrictions, humanity used them. They went to another galaxy, Tanis whispered. Andromeda, Sora confirmed. 2.5 million light-years away. Far enough that council politics could not reach them. Far enough that they could build their own civilization without fear or limitation. It took 18 months to move everyone, every human, every ship, every piece of technology they valued. They took it all through the gates and then sealed them behind them. Tanis felt her wings droop. All this searching, all this hope. And the answer was that humanity had not just left council space. They had left the galaxy itself. Can we follow them? She asked. Can the gates be reopened? No, Sora said simply. The technology was proprietary. Humanity took all the research with them. The gates themselves were destroyed after the last ship went through. There is no way to reach them. No way to contact them. They made sure of that. The pilot spoke up from behind Tanis. Why are you still here then? Why did they leave you behind? 7. I am a record keeper, Sora said. My purpose is to preserve history. Someone needed to remain here, to maintain the human worlds, to remember what happened, in case anyone came looking, in case anyone wanted to know the truth. She looked directly at Tanis. You are not the first to come searching. Over the years, a few others have found their way here. Jihun visited once, many years ago. He downloaded my records and left. He said he wanted proof, evidence of what was done to his people. We need them, Tanis said. Her voice cracked. The Devourers. The threat Minho warned about. It is real. It is here. And we cannot stop it. I know, Sora replied gently. I still monitor council communications. I have watched the reports. I have seen the casualty numbers. I am sorry for what is happening. Truly. Can you send a message? Tanis begged. Through the old gate network? Anything? The gates are dead, Sora said. But even if they were not, I am not authorized to make contact. My creators were very clear. Humanity left. They moved on. They built a new life elsewhere. The old galaxy, the old council, the old problems, they left all of it behind. They do not wish to be found. Tanis sank into a chair. Around her, the holograms continued to play, showing the systematic departure of an entire species. She watched ships load. She watched families board. She watched as station after station went dark, their inhabitants moving through the massive gates into the unknown. And at the very end, she saw Ambassador Minho. He was older in this recording, his hair gray. He stood before a gate, the last to leave. Behind him, the Sol system was empty. Before him, a new galaxy waited. He looked directly at the camera, as if he knew someone would watch this someday. And he spoke. We came to the stars seeking partnership. We found masters. We offered our strength. You feared it. We gave warnings. You ignored them. So now we are leaving. This galaxy is yours. Whatever comes, you will face it with the choices you made. We wish you well. But we are done. He turned and walked through the gate. The light swallowed him, and then the gate collapsed in on itself, folding space until nothing remained but empty darkness. The hologram ended. Sora stood quietly, waiting. Tanis wiped her eyes. Thank you for showing me the truth. It is what I am here for, Sora replied. Will you return to the council? Yes, Tanis said. She stood, straightening her feathers. They need to know. They need to understand what they did, what they lost. She walked back to her ship, carrying the weight of 50 years of silence. The news spread like fire through dry grass. Within days, every species in council space knew the truth. Humanity had not fled in fear. They had not been destroyed by some unknown threat. They had simply chosen to leave, to build something better somewhere else, far beyond the reach of those who had limited them. Ji-hoon watched the reaction from his small home on the frontier. He had published everything. Every recorded session. Every vote. Every denial of human requests. Every restriction placed on human expansion. He had kept these records for 50 years, waiting for the right moment. Now, with the Devourers consuming system after system, that moment had arrived. The response was immediate and violent. On council worlds, protests erupted. Citizens demanded answers from their representatives. How could the council have been so blind? How could they have driven away the one species that had warned them about this exact threat? But the loudest voice came from Councillor Vextar himself. He appeared on public channels, his scaled face tight with anger. Do not be deceived by this revisionist history, he said. Humanity was aggressive. They were expansionist. They built weapons that threatened every peaceful species in the galaxy. We did what was necessary to maintain stability. If they chose to abandon us in our time of need, that reveals their true nature. They were never true allies. Ji-hoon laughed when he heard this. The sound was bitter and cold. He recorded a response and released it on the same public channels. Councillor Vextar speaks of human aggression, Ji-hoon said into the camera. His face was old and lined, but his eyes were clear. Let me tell you about human aggression. We built ships, yes. We built weapons, yes. Because we saw what was coming. We saw the data. We ran the projections. And we knew that peace without strength is just waiting to be conquered. He pulled up files, displaying them for all to see. Here are the proposals humans made. Defensive networks around council borders. Joint military research. Shared early warning systems. Technology transfers to help defend against automated threats. Every single one was denied. Not because they were bad ideas, but because you were afraid of what we might become." His voice grew harder. "You feared human strength more than you feared actual threats. You worried more about controlling us than about protecting your own people. And now, when the threat we warned you about has arrived, you want to blame us for not saving you. You want to paint us as the villains, because we refused to stay in the cage you built." He leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. "Well, here is the truth that Counselor Vex Tar will not tell you. Humanity offered to help build defenses 50 years ago. Humanity offered to station ships at the borders. Humanity offered everything we had to protect this galaxy. And you said no. You said we could not be trusted. You said we needed to be limited. So we left. We took our offers, and our technology, and our strength, and we left you to face the consequences of your own choices." The recording ended. Within hours, it had been viewed by trillions across the galaxy. Public opinion turned sharply. Vex Tar was recalled from the council by his homeworld. Disgraced. Several other council members who had voted against human proposals resigned under pressure. The council itself began to fracture as species blamed each other for the current crisis. High Arbiter Quoll tried to restore order, but it was too late. Trust had shattered. Member species began acting independently, pulling their fleets back to defend their own borders rather than contributing to the collective defense. The unified council front that had stood for thousands of years crumbled in a matter of weeks. And still the Devourers advanced. 3 more systems fell in a single month. Evacuation ships fled desperately toward the inner galaxy, carrying refugees who had lost everything. The outer rim was being abandoned entirely. Nobody could stop the mechanical swarm. Admiral Kexlon stood in the Fleet Command Center and stared at the tactical displays. He was a soldier, not a politician, and he had no patience for the blame games being played in the council. His job was to stop the enemy. But he could not do his job. Every fleet he sent was destroyed. Every defense he established was overwhelmed. The Devourers learned from each engagement, adapting their tactics, growing stronger with every ship they consumed. He pulled up old files, restricted ones that had been sealed decades ago. Designs for automated defense platforms. Everything the Council had rejected because it was too dangerous, too powerful, too threatening to the balance of power. Looking at these files now, Kexlon wanted to scream. These systems would have worked. These designs would have given them a chance. But they had been rejected, sealed away, forbidden, and humanity had taken all their knowledge with them when they left. A message came through on his private channel. It was from Tanis, the young counselor who had gone searching for humanity. She had returned from her expedition and was requesting an urgent meeting. They met in a secure room, just the two of them. Tanis looked exhausted. Her feathers were dull, her eyes hollow. She had seen the empty human worlds. She had spoken with the AI named Sora. She had learned the full truth of humanity's departure. They built gates, she said quietly. Portals between galaxies. They spent 2 centuries developing the technology. When they left, they went to Andromeda. They are 2.5 million light-years away. Kexlon absorbed this information. So there is no way to contact them. The AI said the gates were destroyed after the Exodus. There is no way through. Tanis paused. But she also said that humanity left behind monitoring systems, automated platforms that still watch the galaxy. They are called Watchers. Where? Kexlon demanded. Throughout the outer rim, hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae. They were placed there decades ago, before humanity left. Their purpose was to observe and defend against exactly this type of threat. Kexlon brought up his tactical maps. If these Watchers exist, why have they not acted? They have, Tanis said. Remember the Devourer fleet that disappeared near the Caldron system? The one where we found no wreckage? No explanation? I think the Watchers destroyed it. They are fighting, Admiral. They have been fighting this whole time. We just did not know it was them. Hope sparked in Kexlon's chest. the first he had felt in months. Can we find these watchers? Can we work with them? I do not know, Tanis admitted. But I think we should try. Over the next weeks, they searched. Using Tanis's data from the human AI, they located 3 watcher platforms. Each was a marvel of technology, decades ahead of anything the Council could build. Automated defense systems, self-repairing armor, weapons that could tear through devourer ships like paper. They were small, designed to operate independently, but they were effective, and they were still following their programming. When devourers entered their territory, the Watchers attacked. Silent, efficient, deadly. They had been fighting alone for 50 years, maintaining their vigil even though the creators who built them were long gone. Kexlon sent ships to observe the Watchers in action. What he saw gave him chills. These machines fought with a precision and efficiency that no living crew could match. They knew the Devourers. They had been designed specifically to counter this threat. Every tactic, every weapon, every maneuver was calculated to destroy the mechanical swarm, but there were only a dozen Watcher platforms scattered across the outer rim. They were not enough. The Devourers numbered in the millions now, growing with every system they consumed. The Watchers could slow them, could destroy isolated groups, but they could not stop the full swarm. Kexlon tried to communicate with a Watcher. He sent messages, tried every protocol he knew. Finally, after days of attempts, he received a response. It was not a conversation. It was a data packet. Technical specifications, weapon designs, defensive strategies, everything the Watcher had learned from 50 years of fighting alone. And at the end of the data packet, there was a message. It was short. Only 3 sentences. These are the tools you need. Build them. Defend yourselves. The message was not signed. But Kexlon knew who had programmed it. Humanity had left behind these guardians, knowing that someday, the threat would come, and they had programmed them to share their knowledge with whoever remained to fight, even with the species that had rejected them. He took the data to the Council. For the first time in months, they listened without arguing. They saw the designs. They saw the proof of what worked against the Devourers, and they realized that humanity had given them one last gift, even after being driven away. This will take years to build, one counselor protested. We do not have years. Then we buy time, Kexlon said. He looked at Quoll. We evacuate the outer rim completely. We fall back to defensive positions using these designs. We build as fast as we can. And we hope it is enough. And what about the Watchers? Quoll asked. They will keep fighting, Kexlon replied. They have been fighting alone for 50 years. I think they can manage a few more, while we catch up. The evacuation began. Billions fled their homes, moving toward the inner galaxy. The outer rim systems were abandoned, left to the Devourers. It was a strategic retreat, the largest in galactic history, and as the Council fleets pulled back, the Watchers remained, buying time with their silent war. On his frontier world, Ji-hoon watched the news. He saw the evacuation. He saw the new defensive positions being built using human designs. He saw Council species working together again, united by desperation and shame. He thought about sending another message, about saying something final. But in the end, he decided silence was better. Humanity had said everything that needed to be said 50 years ago. The rest was up to those who remained. He turned off his monitor and walked outside. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. And for a moment, Ji-hoon let himself remember Earth, the world he had left behind so long ago. Somewhere across the vast emptiness between galaxies, his people were watching new sunsets on new worlds. They had moved on. They had found their peace. The old galaxy would have to find its own. Yura had never known Earth. Her mother had been human, but she died when Yura was young. Her father was Krivali, and he raised her alone on a trading station far from Council space. She grew up between worlds, belonging fully to neither, carrying features from both, human eyes and bone structure. But Krivali wings folded against her back. She could not fly, not properly, but she could not pass as fully human either. When humanity left, Yura was off-world. She was only 6 years old, visiting her father's homeworld. By the time they returned to the station where her mother worked, it was empty. Everyone was gone. Her mother, her mother's friends, every human in the sector. They had vanished like smoke, leaving behind only automated systems and silence. Her father tried to explain it to her, tried to help her understand. But how do you explain to a child that her mother chose to leave and did not take her? That an entire species decided their daughter was not human enough to bring along? Yura grew up angry. She became a mercenary, a traitor, someone who lived on the edges of civilized space. She took jobs that others would not touch. She went places where council law did not reach, and she never stopped searching for any trace of where humanity had gone. Now she sat in a small ship, drifting near the galactic rim. Beside her was Nari, a communications specialist who had hired on 3 months ago. Nari was young, brilliant, and obsessed with finding patterns in quantum noise. She claimed she had detected something, a signal, a whisper in the darkness that might be a gate signature. There, Nari said, pointing at her displays. See how the background radiation fluctuates? That is not natural. Something massive was here once. Something that bent space itself. Yura looked at the readings. She had learned enough physics over the years to follow the basics. Nari was right. This was where a gate had been. One of the portals humanity used to leave the galaxy. It is dead, Yura said flatly. Whatever was here, they destroyed it. Dead, yes, Nari agreed. But not completely gone. Gates leave echoes, scars in space-time. If we can find enough of them, we might be able to reconstruct the destination coordinates. Andromeda, Yura said. Everyone knows that is where they went. Knowing the galaxy is not the same as knowing the exact coordinates, Nari replied. Andromeda is huge. 200 billion stars. If we want to send a message, we need to know exactly where to aim. Yura was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had been haunting her for months. Why would they answer? Even if we could send a message, why would humanity care? Oh well. Nari did not have an answer for that. They found 3 more gate locations over the next month. Each one was dead, destroyed so thoroughly that only quantum echoes remained. But those echoes were enough. Nari worked her mathematics, plotting trajectories, calculating the angles. Slowly, an answer emerged. A specific region of Andromeda. A cluster of stars, where humanity most likely went. We need a functioning gate, Nari said. Or at least, gate technology. Something that can punch through to Andromeda even for a moment. That technology is gone, Yura replied. Humanity took it all with them. Not all, Nari said quietly. The Watchers. Yura understood immediately. The Watcher platforms that humanity left behind were highly advanced. More advanced than anything the Council could build. If any remaining human technology could generate a gate signal, it would be them. Finding a Watcher was easier than approaching one. They located a platform in the Kepler Nebula, hidden inside a dead star. But when Yura's ship got close, alarms screamed. The Watcher had locked weapons on them. It would destroy them in seconds if they came any closer. Broadcast on all frequencies, Yura ordered. Tell it we are not devourers. Tell it we just want to talk. Nari sent the messages. Human languages, council languages, every protocol she knew. For agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then the weapons lock faded. A channel opened. A synthetic voice spoke, flat and emotionless. State your purpose. Yura took a breath. We want to contact humanity. We need to send a message to Andromeda. Can you help us? Silence. Then, why? Because the threat they warned about is here, Yura said. The Devourers are destroying everything. The Council cannot stop them. We were wrong. We know that now. We just want to tell them. We want them to know that they were right. More silence. Yura could imagine the Watcher's processors working, evaluating her words against its programming. Finally, it spoke again. I can open a short-range quantum channel. Duration: 3 seconds. Transmission only. No guarantee of receipt. No confirmation possible. 3 seconds, Nari breathed. That is barely enough for... It is enough. Yura interrupted. We just need to send something. Anything. Even if they do not respond, they will know we tried. The Watcher gave them coordinates. A location deep inside the nebula where space was thin enough for a temporary breach. Yura flew her ship there carefully, following the Watcher's guidance. When they reached the designated point, Nari began setting up her equipment. What do we say? Nari asked. We have 3 seconds. Maybe 400 words at most. Yura thought about it. She thought about everything she wanted to tell humanity. About her mother. About growing up alone. About the years of anger and searching. But in the end, those were personal things. This message needed to be bigger than that. Keep it simple, she said. Your children remain. The threat you predicted has arrived. We were wrong. Please help. Nari typed the words, then looked at Yura. You know they might not care, right? They left this galaxy behind. They built a new life. Why would they risk it for people who rejected them? I do not know if they will care, Yura admitted. But I need them to know that someone here is sorry. That someone admits they were wrong. Even if they never respond, I need to send that message. Nari nodded slowly. Okay, I am ready. The Watcher's voice came through again. Initiating breach in 10 seconds. Stand by. Unquote. Stand by. Yura watched the displays. Space itself seemed to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. Energy readings spiked beyond anything her ship was designed to measure. A tiny hole opened in reality, a pinpoint connection between galaxies, lasting just long enough for light to pass through. Transmitting, Nari said. The message shot through the breach in a compressed burst of data. 400 words squeezed into a quantum packet that crossed 2.5 million light-years in the blink of an eye. Then, the hole collapsed. Space smoothed itself out. The connection was gone. They waited. Minutes passed. Then hours. Yura knew it was pointless. Even if humanity had received the message, even if they wanted to respond, the breach was closed. There was no way for a reply to come back, but she waited anyway, staring at her communications displays, hoping for something impossible. After 3 days, she finally accepted it. No response was coming. Humanity had heard them, or they had not. Either way, the result was the same. They were not coming back. I am sorry, Nari said quietly. Yura shook her head. Do not be. We tried. That is more than most people did. They left the nebula and returned to Council space. The war against the Devourers was intensifying. Entire sectors were now lost. The evacuation had bought time, but not enough. Even with the Watcher technology, building sufficient defenses would take years. Years they did not have. Yura took a contract to escort refugee ships. It was dangerous work, but it paid well and it felt right. These people were losing everything, just like she had lost everything when humanity left. The least she could do was help them escape. On one run, she met an old man. He was traveling alone, carrying only a small bag. His face was deeply lined, his hair completely white, but his eyes were familiar. She had seen eyes like that before, in old photos of her mother. You are human, she said, surprised. Half, the old man replied. My mother was Krivali. I know the look. He smiled sadly. You stayed behind too. I did not have a choice, Yura said. The old bitterness crept into her voice. I was not human enough. Neither was I, the man said. I chose to stay. Someone needed to remember. Someone needed to witness what happened. He looked at her carefully. You have been searching for them. It was not a question. Yura nodded anyway. I sent a message, she said. Through a watcher platform. I do not know if they received it. I do not know if they cared. But I sent it. The old man smiled. And it was the first genuine smile she had seen on his face. Good. That is good. Even if they never respond. You did the right thing. Ji-hoon, Yura said, suddenly recognizing him from news broadcasts. You were Ambassador Minho's aide. I was, Ji-hoon confirmed. And now I am just an old man watching the end of an era. Do you think they will come back? Yura asked. If they knew how bad things were, would they help? Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. I think, he said finally, that humanity made their choice 50 years ago. They chose to build a new life away from those who feared them, and I think they have earned the right to enjoy that life without being called back to fight someone else's war. Even if billions die, even then, Ji-hoon said gently. Because billions died before, when people refused to listen to their warnings. Because they offered help and were rejected. Because they gave everything they had to protect this galaxy and were told they could not be trusted. You cannot ask people to save you from the consequences of your own choices. That is not fair. That is not right. Yura looked away. She knew he was right. She had always known it. But accepting it still hurt. What will you do? Ji-hoon asked. Keep flying, Yura said. Keep helping where I can. It is all any of us can do now. Ji-hoon nodded. That is enough. That is more than enough. He left at the next station. Yura watched him go. Another fragment of humanity walking into the crowd and disappearing. She thought about her mother. Wondered where she was in Andromeda. Wondered if she was happy. Wondered if she ever thought about the daughter she left behind. Yura turned back to her ship. There were more refugees to transport. More people who needed help. The message had been sent. Humanity knew. Whether they chose to respond or not was up to them. She had done all she could. Now, she would do what humans had always been good at. Survive. Chancellor Minji stood before the assembly of the Free Reaches and held the datapad that would change everything. Around her, representatives from 43 species waited in silence. Some were human. Most were not. They had all come through the gates 50 years ago, refugees and allies who chose to join humanity in their exodus. Together, they had built something new in Andromeda. Something better. The Free Reaches was not an empire. It was not a council with rulers and subjects. It was a true alliance, where every species had equal voice and equal rights. Where strength was welcomed, not feared. Where innovation was encouraged, not restricted. In 50 years, they had created a civilization that spanned 300 systems and was still growing. Minji had been born in Andromeda. She had never seen the Milky Way, but she had studied its history. She knew what the Council had done to humanity, what they had done to her grandparents' generation. And now, holding this datapad with its simple message from across the void, she had to decide what that history meant. The message came through the quantum breach 30 hours ago, she told the assembly. It is authenticated. It originated from the Milky Way galaxy. Someone found one of our watcher platforms and convinced it to open a channel. She read the message aloud. 400 words that carried the weight of 50 years. Your children remain. The threat you predicted has arrived. We were wrong. Please help. The chamber erupted into debate immediately. Voices rose in a dozen languages, translators struggling to keep up. Minji let them argue for a few minutes, then called for order. "We need to vote," she said. "The question before us is simple. Do we respond to this message? Do we help the galaxy that rejected us? Why should we?" Someone shouted from the back. It was Donghyun, a representative from New Terra, one of the first colonies established in Andromeda. "They drove us out. They feared us. They restricted us. And when we warned them about the Devourers, they ignored us. Now they want our help?" Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Minji understood the anger. She felt it too. But she also felt something else. Something her grandfather had taught her before he died. Compassion costs nothing. Revenge costs everything. "We left to escape their fear," Minji said carefully. "We left to build something better. If we refuse to help now, if we let billions die because of decisions made by people long dead, have we built something better? Or have we just become another version of what we escaped?" "We do not owe them anything," Donghyun insisted. "They made their choices. Let them face the consequences." "Agreed," Minji said. "We do not owe them anything. But this is not about debt. This is about who we choose to be." The debate continued for hours. Minji listened to every voice, every argument. The assembly was divided roughly into three groups. The isolationists, who wanted no contact with the Milky Way ever again. The interventionists, who believed humanity had a moral obligation to help. And the pragmatists, who worried about the security risks of revealing their location. Finally, Minji called for the vote. Not on whether to help directly, but on a middle path she had proposed. They would send technology. Not ships, not soldiers, just the information the Council needed to build their own defenses. Give them the tools, and let them save themselves. The vote was close. 51% in favor. 49% against. The narrowest margin in Free Reach's history. But it was enough. Minji spent the next 3 days working with engineers and scientists. They compiled everything the Council would need. Defensive platform designs, weapon specifications, tactical data on the Devourers that the Watchers had collected over 50 years, power generation systems, manufacturing processes, everything required to build an effective defense. But they included nothing about gate technology. Nothing about their location in Andromeda. Nothing that would allow the Council to follow them or contact them again. This was a gift, but it was also goodbye. One final gesture. And then, the connection would be closed forever. Minji recorded a message to accompany the data. She stood before the camera and chose her words carefully. "To whoever receives this," she began. "We heard your call. We understand your situation. The Devourers are real. They are dangerous. And they can be stopped." She paused, organizing her thoughts. 50 years ago, our ancestors warned your council about this threat. They were ignored. They were restricted. They were feared. So they left. They came here, to Andromeda, and built a new civilization. A place where strength is not punished, where innovation is not feared, where species work together as equals. We have thrived here. We have built cities and colonies. We have welcomed other species who sought the same freedom we did. We have created something beautiful and strong. And we did it without the Council, without permission, without restriction. Her voice grew firmer. You asked for help. We are giving you the tools you need to defend yourselves. Complete specifications. Every piece of knowledge we have about the Devourers. But we are not sending ships. We are not sending soldiers. We are not coming back to fight your war. This galaxy rejected us. It feared what we might become. So we left and became something greater than it could imagine. We will not risk that. We will not endanger our people for those who would not trust us when it mattered. What we are giving you is enough. Use it wisely. Build your defenses. Protect your people. survive. But understand this. We are done with the Milky Way. This transmission is the last contact we will ever have. The gate network will be permanently deactivated after this message. You will never be able to reach us again. You will never know where we are. Quote, Minji leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. Your children remain, you said. That part of your message was wrong. The humans who stayed behind by choice are not our children. They made their own decisions. And the half-humans like the one who sent your message were left behind because they were not fully committed to either world. That was tragic. But it was necessary. We could not risk anyone who might lead the council to us. We wish you well, truly, but we are not your saviors. We are not your heroes. We are simply people who chose to leave a place that did not value us. We found our own path. You must find yours. This is Chancellor Minji of the Free Reaches, signing off. Goodbye. The message was compressed into a quantum burst, along with terabytes of technical data. Engineers reopened the gate breach for exactly 5 seconds. The data shot through. Then the gate network shut down completely, every relay destroyed, every connection severed. Minji returned to the assembly chamber. The representatives waited silently. She nodded to them, confirming the transmission was complete. It is done, she said. We have given them what they need. The rest is up to them. Do you think it will be enough? Someone asked. I do not know, Minji admitted. The Devourers are powerful. The Council is fractured. It will take them years to build the defenses, even with our data. Many will die before the war is over. But they have a chance now. Whether they take it is their choice. Donghyun stood. And what about us? What if they find us somehow? What if they come looking? They will not, Minji said with certainty. We destroyed the last gate. We left no trail. And even if they somehow discovered Andromeda, it is a large galaxy. We are hidden among billions of stars. They would never find us. She looked around at all the faces watching her. Human and non-human. Young and old. All of them children of the Exodus. All of them committed to this new civilization they had built together. We made our choice 50 years ago, Minji said. We chose freedom over fear. We chose to build rather than fight someone else's battles. That choice stands. The Milky Way is their responsibility now. Andromeda is ours. The assembly voted unanimously to confirm the permanent closure of the gate network. No objections. No debate. Even Donghyun voted yes. They all understood that this was the final step in truly leaving the old galaxy behind. In the months that followed, reports filtered in through the watchers that still operated in the Milky Way. The Council had received the data. They were building frantically, constructing defensive platforms using human designs. The war against the Devourers had intensified, but the tide was beginning to turn. Slowly, painfully, but turning. Minji watched these reports with mixed feelings. Relief that they were surviving. Sadness for the lives being lost. But no regret. Humanity had given them a chance. That was more than they deserved, and it was all humanity would ever give. She thought about the person who sent the message. Yura, the half-human woman who had convinced a watcher to open a channel. Minji hoped she survived, hoped she found peace with being left behind, but there was nothing more they could do for her. The choice had been made long ago. 20 years later, the war in the Milky Way finally ended. The Devourers were destroyed, pushed back, and eliminated through a grinding campaign that cost trillions of lives and left vast sections of the galaxy uninhabitable. The Council survived, but it was forever changed. The member species had learned to work together, had learned that survival required sacrifice and trust, and they had learned that humanity had been right all along. In Andromeda, Minji was old now. She stood on a balcony overlooking a human city built on an alien world circling an alien star. Children played in the streets below. Ships launched from orbital platforms, heading out to new colonies, new discoveries. The free reaches had grown to 600 systems now. They had met other species, native to Andromeda. Some had joined them. All had been welcomed. She thought about the message she had sent all those years ago. The final words humanity would ever speak to the galaxy they left behind. Part of her wondered if they hated humanity for leaving them to face the devourers alone. Part of her wondered if they understood why it was necessary. But mostly, she did not think about it at all. The Milky Way was the past. Andromeda was the future. And humanity had chosen its future the moment Ambassador Minho stood up in that council chamber and walked away. A young girl ran up to the balcony, laughing. She had human features but green skin, the daughter of a human father and a Seclari mother. The Free Reaches was full of such children now, hybrid generations who belonged to all species and none. Chancellor Minji, the girl said. My teacher said you met the people from the old galaxy, the ones who sent the message. Is that true? I received their message, Minji confirmed. I never met them. Did you want to meet them? Minji smiled. No, child. They were strangers. People I never knew from a place I never lived. The only galaxy I care about is this one. The only people I care about are here. The girl nodded, accepting this, and ran back to her friends. Minji watched her go. This child of two worlds, who belonged fully to both. This was what humanity had built. Not an empire, not a conquest, just a place where people could be themselves, without fear. The Milky Way had its own future now. One it would build without humanity. That was as it should be. They had given the Council a final gift of knowledge, had shown them one last time how to survive. But they had not, would not, could not go back. Some doors, once closed, should remain closed. Some goodbyes were final. Minji turned away from the balcony and went back inside. There was work to do. New colonies to plan. New species to welcome. New futures to build. The old galaxy was behind them now. And humanity, finally, was home.